Good morning. Today is November the 3rd, and this is the official meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee. Mr. Powers, the town administrator, is going to be a couple of minutes late, so I thought we could get rid of some of the administrative stuff prior to your presentations, okay? And we'll introduce, Mark, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Mark Kelleher, representative for the Finance Committee.
I'm Rich Larius, the chairman from the Administrators Committee, or Town Administrator.
And I'm Martha Donovan, the Select Board representative.
We're waiting for a few other members also. But we don't want to delay I know you guys have to go back to work. We just have an administrative part of our own to in terms of new business, to approve the meeting minutes of September the 22nd and October the 18th. Do I hear a motion?
Do I need to do the motion first before I ask a question?
Yes.
I motion to accept the minutes of September 21st and October 18th.
Second.
Go
So
ahead.
just a note that on the minutes of October 18th, it looks like they abruptly end on the second page. Was there supposed to be a third page?
We'll ask
Okay.
Carol when we finish. If it ended, we probably don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, it doesn't say adjourned or anything, so I'm assuming there's a third page that we're just missing.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey,
Parking stuff out there, I know. Okay, we started because we knew you were coming.
Okay, good.
Trying to get rid of the administrative stuff. So part of our review today is to go over facilities maintenance, the water department, the wastewater department, the public works department, and watershed management plan, WPM, formerly CWPM. So why don't we start with facility maintenance? And what I mean by that is we have your capital requests that you've made. So if you want to come up to the table, whoever is,
You too. It's your name on it.
whoever's got facilities management. Is that Link?
It is.
It's Link and Sean. And we're looking for the year 2025. And to make life easy, can we start with Oak Street Community Center? Does that make sense to you guys, or tell me?
Sure.
Link.
Hi, Mr. Chair, Link Hooper, DPW Director, Sean Libby, Facilities Management. And I think I'm going to let Sean speak to the specifics of these projects, since he's the one tasked with most of them.
Okay.
So you want to go just with 25 with community center for right now?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what,
Like the handout starts at that. I don't know did you get this here?
No. I've got my own and got the administrators here, but I don't know how he had his one.
But I think it follows the big sheet we have, Sean, here. This
Okay.
big
okay,
sheet.
Sean, what do you show as a number?
I'm looking at 295.
Okay, let's start with that.
Yeah, they'll match up.
Okay.
Didn't know what order I'll use for an order. So that 295 is for the older air conditioning systems for the rec side and the COA side. They're both 23 years old at this time, and they're starting to fail. So this is due to be replaced. The larger unit out back is being replaced this winter through a Green Communities project, but these other two weren't covered.
The other two.
There's 3 air conditioning systems for that building.
Okay,
One, the larger unit, it's a 40-ton unit, is being replaced this winter under Green Communities,
okay,
which was approved last year. The next 2 were online to be replaced. They're 2 10-ton units. One feeds the COA side, the other one feeds the rec side.
okay. Can I just ask that there's a $653,000 request in '27. Does that make any,
Yes.
is that,
And that is for, no, we added it up here. In '27, that is for a generator replacement, which is also beginning to fail.
Okay.
It's had a lot of repairs to it, and it's for a new roof in
Okay.
'27.
okay, so the 295 is for the 40-ton, this
Two 10-ton units.
210.
And those haven't changed since last year.
No.
They're the same on the schedule.
Who's doing the work?
We got to contract it out.
Oh, it's still?
Yeah, it's got to go out to bid.
Okay,
Once we have the money, then we can write up the specifications and go out to bid.
okay. Committee, any question on that? Pretty direct.
No question, I guess.
Okay.
I'm
You good? Okay.
Going down the big list, do you want to stick with 25, or do you want to go down in order, go to the Cranberry Valley, which is fiscal year '26?
Okay, so you're talking Cranberry Valley Golf.
Cranberry Valley Golf Course, it's the pro shop in FY '26, that's also an AC replacement with a heat pump system.
Okay, and I don't show, is that under your, oh, I got it. In '26, 85,000?
Correct.
Okay. No,
Again, was on the schedule last year, no change.
Correct.
Go ahead,
Chairman, I had a question.
sure.
There was some reference in here to, I saw about solar panels. Are there solar panels? What?
At the Cranberry Valley, went almost all solar, almost 3 years ago now.
Okay,
If we put in the heat pumps, we'll reduce the need for fossil fuels, meaning the boiler is an oil-fired boiler that does the heating and hot water system right now. It'll reduce down to just hot water,
so
domestic
these
hot
are on the ground or something?
water. The solar panels, they're
Yeah.
on top of the golf shack and on the ground behind the new, the golf cart shop.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Everyone, Mr. Powers is here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. We
Good
did,
morning, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
not a problem. We have a big crew today, and
And if I may, what the director, or what the maintenance director was just talking about is the cot barn. That's what we're
oh, that's why I didn't understand.
Exactly.
I thought you said cart barn.
Yeah. So,
Sean, are you done? Is that it?
I'm done with that.
Okay.
I'm going off a little bit of this because I have this one. Didn't know what order it was going into. So next, in '25, we've got public safety.
Mm-hmm.
That was also on there last year, to start off with that, and that is a sidewalk, basically rip out and replacement of all the brick, because it's all starting to settle, and there's 1-inch gaps which create tripping hazard.
Was that originally put when the,
When the police station was done,
how long ago was that?
13 years?
And we built it, or, I know I was here for that. I'm saying there's no recourse back to the builder?
Oh, no, that's
It-
just settling.
They're dry set, so they weren't put on concrete or anything,
Okay,
you know, so over time, it's just settlement.
so this is maintenance. Okay,
I just have a couple of questions on this.
yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, I mean, these are slate
Brick.
panels up there? Slate tiles?
No, it's brick. It's a brick sidewalk.
This is in front of the police station, Paul.
Oh,
So,
is this the one we're talking about?
yeah, let's just see.
204?
No.
Sisson?
he's-
No.
He's back over here. Right here.
Okay. Okay,
want-
sorry.
Good.
All right. I thought we were on the other item. Okay,
I could just move over here.
thanks.
No problem.
So,
Imagine. There are easier ways to get vacation.
I don't understand why you did that since he's facility management. I don't,
It's probably against.
I didn't want him drinking my coffee.
I'm a little confused. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Any questions on the brick repair before we move on from public safety?
No.
All right, sticking with public safety, you look out in the out years, you have in FY '28, $135,000 for all the windows to be replaced on the fire side of the building.
Yes, sir.
What material's there now?
What material?
For the
What type
window.
of windows?
Yeah. Is it wood or is it vinyl? or-
It's wood.
The replacement windows will be what material? Hopefully not,
Yeah, no,
hopefully not wood, right?
no, but we've already replaced 2 of them, and it
Yeah.
was not wood.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get a lot more longevity, I would think, out of vinyl or aluminum. Okay.
Okay, that's public
Public
safety.
safety, moving on to 204
Sisson.
Sisson. In FY '25, 650,000, that was on there last year as well. And that is for the replacement of the slate roof and the gutter. It's got a copper gutter system now. My intent is to remove the slate, redeck it, and use asphalt shingles.
What would, do you have an idea, what would the cost be to replace it with slate?
Well, I had a contractor out there last year, and he was saying he wouldn't even begin to guess, but it'd be over 750.
Okay. Let's go with the asbestos. It's fine with me.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. I know when we did this last year, I thought it was priced on slate, and the asphalt shingles are quite a factor less. And I see you've changed it from last year, it said slate replacement, this year asphalt shingle. Do you adjust the prices when we do some minor changes?
Yes.
Okay, so that 650 is for,
Redecking mostly, because the plywood's through the roof
okay,
right now.
all right, so you've got that additional. And just to follow up with Paul, we've spoke about, that's an ideal place, it would seem to be for solar. Well, how do we get solar? I know, I see the community center, green communities, and that building would seem to be an ideal candidate for some type of energy efficiency solar thing, so not that I expect an answer now, but I would, like to.
Well, I can give you my quick answer right now. In the past, since I've been here the last 10 years, we've done solar programs with CVEC, Cape and Vineyard, and we've taken advantage when they've had a series. For example, the golf course was done under, I think, year 3 or year 4 of their program of doing solar panels. When they come up with the next one, we would be looking, now that we know we're keeping 204, I would look at putting it on top of the rubber roof, as it's flatter, and it's not facing one side. Probably get more sunlight there.
Okay.
Okay, sticking with 204 and FY '26. We've got a total of 265, that's 2 separate projects. One of them, and they were both on last year's as well. And one of them is to replace the storefront doors in the rear of the building where the trailers currently are. We're removing the trailers as we speak, and it's just gonna be temporary boarded off with plywood until we get these storefront doors.
Explain that one again. What are we paying 265 for?
265 is 2 separate projects. One of them is the storefront doors for $80,000,
Okay.
and that is in the rear of the building. 185 of it is for repair of all the split-face block that is pulling away from the building from water damage and just from not being repointed over the years.
Is that in the back of the building?
That's all over the building.
All over the building, okay.
Can one be done without the other?
Yes, 2 separate projects.
Okay, which one in terms of priority?
I would say the split-face block, because you could potentially do damage to the building, more damage to the interior of the building. But we also lose a lot of heat through plywooded spaces rather than having the doors.
Okay.
And was,
Mr. Chairman, sorry, if I can follow up to the question of priority. The select board's priority, which is why we're working on it presently, is the demolition of what Sean's referred to as trailer. We also refer to as the modular classrooms.
Right.
So we're actively undergoing that demolition. That's been a stated priority of the select board since the board recommitted to that building.
But this is the next step of adding doors,
Sure.
so, okay. Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
she's up.
I thought there was some concern or structural issues around putting those doors back in, once you pulled off, no?
No.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to kind of ask about the slate roof here. I mean, I think of a slate roof as being pretty much a permanent structure.
This roof is 4 years old, and it has got segments that are probably 10 by 10 that the slate is broken apart. So it's not indestructible.
Yeah, I don't, why can't we visit these places?
We can, if you want to
We did,
climb on a roof.
And we did,
Well, we did?
yeah, last year,
Well,
twice
last
we were
year.
there.
Last year.
Yeah.
Sorry, was
I'm
the
just
comment,
surprised.
can you see the building?
And I guess
The answer is yes.
there's no thought of putting, first let me understand, but I don't understand. 204 Sisson is what, the police station or fire? What's the address?
The middle school.
204 Sisson,
It's the
Pardon me?
it's the middle school,
yeah.
It's the cultural center is in there.
across from the police station.
Okay. So we're talking about the old high school?
Yes.
And the slate roof has been on the high school since inception, whatever,
Since 91.
91. And what was the
Oh,
reason
90
to
I'm
put the
sorry,
slate
90.
roof on at that point? Does one know?
This one wasn't here, he was in the Navy.
It's in college.
But you also
Okay.
said, Sean, that part of that project is to replace the boarding, right? On the roof, like the.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Remove the
Even if
slate.
you've replaced a couple of slate tiles, it's still not gonna address the issue of the decking is rotted or not good, it's not sustainable.
I guess I'll have to go look at this. I can't envision where are these on the top? I mean, the roof is flat, right?
The new part of the building is flat, the older section is not.
To the left, we're talking
To
about?
the right, as you're looking at it
Well,
from
as you
Sisson.
face it,
To the right, yeah.
the newer sections where the old middle school or whatever used to be, right? 40 years ago.
Couldn't tell you, I wasn't here, I was in the Navy.
Okay.
What we'll do, I'm sorry.
Oh, quick question. Will this repointing take care of the entrances? Because you have all the.
Yes.
So that, it includes not only the building.
All the split face block along the walls
But
where
on
you
the-
got them
okay.
coming off the columns and the stairs and,
Are they gonna have to stage the whole building to do this?
No, because it's only coming off in the lower sections right now where the
Okay.
water infiltration has popped it and it's frozen.
Okay. And would it be a good idea, would you, after it's done, waterproof the building so we don't have,
It would probably be a good idea.
yeah, you don't have that, because masonry, as you know, fails over time, and the waterproofing would give it, a few more years, I would imagine, so.
Let me just interject a second. We are planning a road trip.
Okay. I
Okay.
mean, I find it very difficult to operate, in the first place, just getting this last night. And secondly, when we haven't physically,
Let me
Is-
finish my thought, okay?
it's, yeah, I
One of the,
just-
one of the, one of
if
the
I
items.
have time, I'd go visit them myself, but,
One of our decisions that was made prior to you joining the committee was we knew that there are gonna be requests that we could physically go see, so we understood the request. We will put that one on the list, and she's running it. We are gonna get a bus from the community center.
Correct.
And this will be one of those that we're gonna get out, walk around, and see what the issue is.
yeah, well,
Okay? Let's go on. Go ahead.
Are we
Thank
good?
you.
Are we good with the 204, the split face and the general repairs?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the list in FY '27 is a new DPW building. that we talked about last year, and you asked for it to be put up in priority, and we did so, and we've had a engineer come out and do a study of what our needs are, and came up with a design, and that is the price of the building.
Is that demolishing anything and putting something up?
No, this would be using the current real estate, current parking lot. It's pretty open if you haven't been back there. I think Sean and I were both shocked at these numbers because we originally had it in for 3 million, which we thought would be more than ample, and that was him and I grabbing numbers. And we had an actual engineer that had constructed town of Yarmouth and something up this way, Orleans, had done their DPWs as well. This is a glorified space building. It's not like an entire DPW building. This is, what, 4 or 5 bays that vehicle maintenance would use and facility maintenance would use. It's you know, over time, the town has consolidated many functions under the DPW, facilities being one of them, and vehicle maintenance. When that building was designed, we're a highway department, and just took care of the highway department. Since that time, Kyle and his crew, the vehicle maintenance department, services, I think, 165 registered vehicles in town, and there's more equipment on top of that. So space has become an issue for us.
I would just suggest, so, as we approach this, that I'm sure you guys are watching this or being concerned about it. And certainly if we could lower that 9 million, it would certainly help us getting it quickly.
Understood.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed by the estimate from the engineer, because his cost estimate for the building itself was the same as ours.
Well, I don't have a problem if you had sold the cemetery land for 9 million and you want to put this in for 9. I mean, I'm all for that, but I don't think that's the way it's going to go.
But just how, what I was getting towards is how municipal contracts go. The building was a little over 3 million.
Yeah.
It was almost 4 million for overhead and profit and permits. I was a little shocked by that.
And they gave us a spreadsheet, I don't happen to have it with me, that showed what the cost of construction has been over the years historically, and it looked kind of like very level going up in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID. It looks like it's nearly doubling every 3 years. It's just, it was insane.
I mean, COVID's a great reason, and, you know, the supply chain issue and all that, but I would hope by whatever year that is, 27, to
Don't tend to go
finally
down, right?
have addressed it as a way of life. And this cost of inflation is sort of, you know. Okay,
I just think it goes to the point that it's so important that we maintain our buildings, because replacing them is so outrageously expensive.
let
So
me-
I know people just generally fight the idea of putting on new roofs or whatever, because they're expensive, but the cost to build a new building is,
Let me just say that the current building that Link is
and
in,
that's on my list.
that has been Band-Aided a number of times, maybe potentially to reach its maximum point of no return in terms of adding or fixing. So we have to make a strong argument for that one as it approaches us financially.
And you guys are on my list as a place that I want to go to as a girl
She's
who's
never been to the dump.
to the tip, or the Dechettery, as they
Letting the
say.
finer things in life pass her by.
And it's a perfect segue to the next item on the list, which is incorporated in the same form that the DPW building is in. So if you look at the 4th year of the plan, you can see the 545,000, and I'll turn it back over to our maintenance manager.
Transfer station?
Transfer station for the recycling center, and getting compactors in there.
Oh, really? What are you doing them now?
Crush it with a front-end loader.
Oh, you're talking about the cardboard.
Cardboard, plastic.
Well, that's crushed other than where it is. I've seen the dumpster, the crushing. I've never seen them crush the plastic and that stuff. Okay. And we're going to continue to take place.
Continue
Yeah.
what?
to take plastic.
Yes.
Right.
Waistband items were mandated to recycle those.
Okay. We all good? You want to go out on the other two, the Albro House, Town Hall, and Brooks Free Library?
Sure. Albert House is all the way out to 29, and that is for an engineering study of the foundation. After looking at Brooks Academy's foundation, we decided we should probably take a look at this one as well. And it is old, and it does show signs of settling, so I think it would be a good idea to make sure it doesn't settle much more.
In the place we're sitting in now. Next, 275 and 28.
Oh.
Oh,
Town
wait a
Hall.
minute.
I'm
wait a
sorry,
minute,
you
before
were moving on.
Before you go there, can I just ask
Yes.
a question? Joe, is there plans for the Alborough House? What is it being used for?
So it's a mixed use right now. We have staff in there. That's where our Director of Youth and Family Services, Ashley Symington, her office is. It's where her predecessor, Sheila House, has always had an office.
Okay.
We also have, I believe, 3 current license agreements with private nonprofits. I'm looking to make sure that we continue to have it for government purposes or municipal purposes first. So I may be adding staff to that location and reducing some of the private nonprofits, but that's a conversation with the board.
Okay.
Quick question.
However, if I could, the town intends to remain committed to that building as a municipal building for the foreseeable future.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Is there air conditioning in that building?
Window units,
What's that?
just window units.
Window units, okay.
Moving on to the town hall.
Please.
All right, within town hall, we have a roof planned to be replaced in 28. That is the rubber roof, that is the flat portion of this building, not the slate.
This has slate on it too?
This has slate as well on the older section.
The old,
The original building.
Bank.
Actually, and actually up here, us here.
Really?
But it's the rubber that has been broken down to the point where it's leaking.
Have you had experts come in and give you a life expectancy of what
Yes.
currently exists?
Yes.
Okay.
Quick question on that. A lot of EPDM roofs now are going white to reduce the heat load. Is that something you're gonna be doing for
Yep,
the
same as
future?
what's at the middle school where they're both about the same age. This is only a couple years old. The middle school looks like it's in perfect condition. This is broken down because it was black.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, through you, could I ask, what was the acronym you used and what does it stand for?
EPDM, elastic, it's a membrane.
All right, there we go. That works for me.
You're trying to get me, Joe, and
No,
I'm gonna get you.
I'm allergic to acronyms because the board told me to be allergic to acronyms, so I just want to make sure.
Sean knows what I'm talking about, right, Sean?
Rubber.
Yeah, it's
is.
rubber.
The white stuff.
The white stuff.
Very good, thank you all.
And the next item on there would be the $350,000 replacement of the air handling units. There are 3 air handling units in this building, a 40-ton and 2 10-tons, just like the community center. It'll reach its 20 years of age in 28. That is the ASHRAE standard for life expectancy of an air handling unit.
And that's new,
That's
in terms of adding to the,
correct, that's in
in
29.
an out year. Okay.
I'm going to ask the town administrator a question. A couple of years ago, whatever, the thought was moving town hall or having another building as town hall and doing something with this. It's tough to put in almost $1 million here. Has that thought gone away?
Yes, in the short term it has.
Okay, so the 600,000 or whether is still viable. I mean, makes this place more viable.
Sure. What I would say is, and I'm going to reserve time at the end before Sean finishes to say some glowing things about him, which is the major reason why I've asked the director to have some of the department heads come from DPW and present. But the list that you see in front of you for facilities maintenance ties back to the municipal buildings that the town owns and operates, and are covered on our insurance schedule through Maya. It's not a complete list because there's other things like structures at White House Field and various structures at beaches and ponds. However, these buildings are recognized as municipal buildings for municipal purposes, and every one of them is intended to be here beyond the 5-year plan that you're talking about today.
Okay. You've got two more.
Great. Unless you want to skip the library. I've got the library in there for 590,000
Oh, yeah,
for the
okay.
replacement of 2 air handling units that are, they're old. They were retrofitted back in 1998, retrofitted. And since then, we've done a lot of repairs to them. And I think it's time to look at replacing them. It's got a lot of air infiltration up in the attic, which brings in humidity, and humidity is, doesn't do well with books.
I guess historically, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of air handlers in the buildings that we own that need repair or replacement. Is there any way to group them together and get a discount price? No.
Every one of them are a little different. This at the library happens to be a chilled water system. The one at the community center, we're changing from R22 refrigerant to a 414 refrigerant, so it's got to get new coils and new lines. And the ones here is a complete encased unit where it's not just an air handling unit. So
Okay, that's generically you're speaking about what the hardware looks like.
3 different projects, 3
Same-
different grouping, no savings by bulking.
Same type of installer, same type of a company?
Not really. Not always. I mean, it could be some companies do it, and some companies do split up the chill water systems. And it's
Well,
more
I'm asking
specialized.
if you had one guy, one company, having the ability to do all this work, and I would imagine they chew gum and walk at the same time, that they possibly do 3 different types of mechanical work.
Some do.
Some do. All I'm saying is, can we look at those, some, and say we've got 5 projects with 5 different applications? Can you give us an estimate on what this thing looked like if it was consolidated? And I guess, I don't know what your municipal, I was going to say vending, but,
Procurement?
right.
Thank you. That would be a major consideration. If the town were to pursue that option, so to speak, I think we're then venturing into a 30-39 vertical construction kind of a situation where the values get over a certain dollar amount. You're now adding owners, project managers, and things of that nature. Whereas, if I'm hearing our facilities maintenance director correctly, we look at them for each unit, for each building, and for each purpose, and we can handle them as one-offs rather than making it a bigger project.
Okay.
Is that fairly?
That's true. Also, the move in and move out is where you usually save money. This is 3 different locations. They'd still have to do a setup in each separate building.
Okay.
So there's really no savings.
Just trying to see where some savings
Absolutely.
would be. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
I have a question though at Brooks Academy. So last year in the plan, there was 40,000 and 27 and 150,000 and 28 for service enhancements
Yeah.
that came out.
It came out because I believe the library director is incorporating that within either operating or separate articles. Because that is within the operations, it gets to support of libraries.
So this was where she might redesign how they use the library. That was
Correct,
right.
operationally, but I think the key point, if I'm remembering correctly from my conversations with our library director, is that every town has an obligation with libraries to demonstrate a commitment above and beyond operating and standing. So it's commitment to libraries and support of libraries. We get there beyond our collective bargaining contracts and operational budgets by having appropriated articles that get to exactly that. So rather than put it into a facilities maintenance capital plan, it has more value for Ginny and the library trustees to have that as an article through them, separate from the plan. So she's looking at it as more of an operational rather than capital. We would agree with that, and it gets to the broader question of the town is going above and beyond for their support of libraries. And that allows us to then keep getting funding from the Mass Library system.
And that gets paid for through some kind of a grant maybe, or through free cash, or?
So the appropriating articles, usually it's either free cash or raise and appropriate, but then we may be able to access other grants for other purposes.
Because you made it separate?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, all right.
Okay, go ahead, Sean, let's finish this.
Okay, moving on to 80 Parallel Brooks Academy. This is a new compiled request. It was spread out over a number of years. Looking at the project, just like we were talking about for efficiencies and gaining some money, rather than moving in and moving out for separate phases of the project, it makes more sense to do it all at once, and that's what we're requesting. We currently have $690,000 for restoration of the exterior siding and windows. We've gone out to an architect to have that drawn up and get some cost estimates on that. I do believe it's going to be higher than that. We're looking at the other work that needs to be, that's required to be done. One of it is the roof it's time. We're planning on the siding being done before we get started on the roof, and then also the columns out front, they were separated. So we want to add the columns, add the roof, and then a limited use lift, Lula lift, limited use, limited
Access.
access.
You were there.
I never heard of it before. I learned something about a Lula lift, but the Lula lift, we're going to have to go down into the basement, which is digging up where we just put a new basement in.
CPC funds available for this, historic?
So I don't believe so for the Lula, but for some of the other projects. However, given that there was what I would call a transition point based on the foundation, I made the decision, rather than pursuing some grants through CPC this year and spread it out over several years, as Sean just mentioned, we've strategized on it. I think it's better for the town and for the project to make this commitment in fiscal year '25, because what you will see if we get that accomplished in out years, maybe more in the line of 50,000 for some other study or analysis, but by and large, the building is complete. The Lula would not be, well, if it were be covered by CPC, we can't wait on the insertion of that. For the building, given the complexity and the dollar amounts of the project, compel the town to have that level of access and accessibility. So for me, knowing where other areas were going to be reduced on our capital plan in fiscal year '25, I've made the decision, and Sean has certainly helped me with that, and I think we're in agreement that it's better for us to make this final big push and be done with it.
Okay,
If we were to wait on any number of those projects, I think in the aggregate over long term, we'd be paying much more.
okay.
Last on the list is the Harbor Masters generator installation.
Still hasn't gotten one?
No.
But he will if this plan is adopted and the budget goes.
Oh, I can understand that. Okay.
I do have a question on that, if I could. Is that, I
Sure,
don't want to
go
interrupt
right
you. $200,000 to basically, what you have here is to protect against a freeze-up in the winter. Now, in the winter time, the harbor master could potentially close down for a few days. It's not an essential facility during the winter. I was down there today. I see the, it's a raised building. It has probably water pipes going up. $200,000 seems like a lot of money to basically keep water pipes from freezing right underneath there. You could do a heat wrap. I agree that we need a generator there, not a portable generator, as John originally said, but $200,000 is a lot of money for a generator. I talked to the Belmont manager today. 3 or 4 buildings, 4 stories high, all with water, no generator. So I would just like to see, Sean, if all we're really trying to do is just keep that vertical riser from freezing. because I think in the building, I mean, he could do what we all do in our homes during a cold winter. He could run the water a little bit, keep a flow going through it. Just, I think the only load that is really needed in that building is for those water pipes. And I just, $200,000 just seems like an awful lot of money.
It is what it is. That's the estimate. We got it from an engineer who engineered it out. We paid for an engineering study, and that's what he recommended.
Did he
Okay,
have,
let
a-
me
I'm
just
sorry.
ask a question.
Was his load just, what, is the load to include running that whole building?
Yes. It was a
Lighting.
whole building generator, mainly for the VRF system,
Which is,
variable refrigerant flow
thank you.
heat pump.
All the mini splits.
So that building is heat pump?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so if it loses power, heat, I
There's
mean,
no heat.
there's no heat. How many people work in that building?
4?
4? I mean, I guess I'm sort of with your thoughts, Mark.
And the other thing is, unlike Sisson Road where we have sprinklers, where it's really important to get a generator in there, because if it freezes up, you're gonna have water pouring out the building. That building is non-sprinklered as well, which I think factors in a little bit to the necessity, but go ahead, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay. There are two thoughts, school of thoughts. One is, for some reason, you're concerned about the water running in the building. My concern is heating the building and having somebody work in the building. And that, I have a whole house generator, okay? I could care less about the water, I just want to stay warm. So the question is, do we want the people in the building to be able to function, and the building is able to function? Now, that has to do with heat.
Sure. My response is no. We don't want them. We absolutely need them to be functional without question.
That's my point, yeah. So,
It's not a want, it's a need.
but I
and-
think we're targeting on this water issue, and I'm really concerned about the building issue on providing heat. Can they work? And the answer is no if they lose power. Now, if one of the applications of providing power to the building is pumping, having the water come in, and again, wrapping it or whatever, and also providing electricity and heat, I agree, 200 grand is a lot. And again, you had the study done, and but I know a home, and in that house, I mean, that building, how many square feet is it?
You know, square footage side, it's for the VRF system. It's a 220 volt, 3-phase, and it has to be an even level of power, and if it's not, it won't run. So you won't have heat. It's not like your mini splits at home.
If I could add, if memory serves correctly, this is something that was omitted from the design and construction of the new complex for whatever reasons, and it has to be addressed by the town.
So you're paying the price now.
Correct. And if I may, if I had been here on time, what you would have heard me talk about is the plan in total and the budget for fiscal year '25. There are, the projects that are on this list presently, I see enough funding sufficient to fund all of the budget items in fiscal year '25. If we have to come back to, if we have to do cuts, the thing I would go back to is, if you look on the form, is what has been deemed essential versus what may be deemed as desirable or an enhancement.
And I understand that, and the committee understands that, but I think the committee is asking the question, yeah, we buy it, we understand it, but are there other alternatives that'll get you the same result? And I think that's what Mark is driving at. And the issue is, yeah, they're all fundable, but is there any way, is there any one that could be fundable at a less dollar amount? So, if there's, I mean, if this,
Anything we can offer to the committee?
I had a question for,
if these numbers are a work in progress and we're not, I mean, we're asking questions, and that's our job.
Absolutely,
Okay?
absolutely.
And the issue, Mark, is, it's the nail on the head. I mean, what are the applications? And I understand you got a heating unit there that needs X amount of power to run. And I'm saying, is there any other generator that provides that plus the house? That's all. And if there's not, then we're stuck with this. But
That's why I hired an electrical engineer to tell us.
a what?
An electrical
Oh,
engineer
I
to
thought you
tell
said
us.
nautical. I was going to say. Okay. Okay. Are you, go ahead.
Can I make one observation, just to sum this up? It looks like, I'm just doing my math here, that the facilities capital plan for the 5-year outlook has increased by about, call it 5.2 million from last year. And that's almost a 50% increase, and that's primarily due to the cost of construction in Brooks Academy and the building at the DPW. So it's not new projects that's driving this, it's primarily the cost of construction.
I think
That's
that-
how
I think
that's
a
my
fair point.
takeaway from the numbers that you guys just presented.
Okay. Any other questions? Committee?
Good,
We're good.
thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, before the Facilities Maintenance Director, official title is Maintenance Manager. However, I like to refer to Sean as our Facilities Maintenance Director, because you're going to hear from another director, and I want them to both get the accolades that they deserve, and I know you folks know it, but we're also speaking to a broader audience who may be watching this now or in the future. The town is incredibly well-served through our Director of Public Works and his essentially 5 department heads, and no greater example of that than Sean Libby. So we have a number of buildings. There are a few newer ones, but as you just talked about, even with the newer ones, there are needs. So we are eternally grateful and well-served by our Facilities Maintenance Manager. He does great work.
Ditto.
There, it's over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just cut your request by 50% and we're good.
Yeah.
Public Works is next, I believe.
we were at the bottom, but we'll be more than happy to circumvent the schedule.
Yeah, what's the preference?
Let's do Public Works because water's going to be,
And do you want to do roads or vehicles?
roads, vehicles are on roads, just bring them up.
Let's do vehicles. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask the director to introduce our Vehicles Maintenance Director, Kyle Edson. Say more than I just said because same situation. Excellent employee, great value, would be lost without him. Your thoughts as well, Mr. Director?
Couldn't say it any better myself. I'm going to say we tried to recruit Kyle 3 separate times before we got you.
Yes.
Yes, he worked for 28 years at Chatham Ford. We have a fleet of Fords in town, and we would go to him, his predecessor would go to him when we got over our heads, and Kyle always solved our problem. So we set our sights on recruiting Kyle, and the 3rd time, we hit a home run with the man.
Let me just, welcome. I just want to make a comment. That presentation and the questioning we went through took us more time than I had allocated, okay? I'm not cutting you short, but we're going to try to keep it concise because we have a group behind you that I know after this meeting, I will get an earful about what I should have done. And yes, I understand. Okay, please, go right ahead.
I think we're diving into vehicles first, and do you have any questions about our vehicle replacement plan? Our strategy is, we look at the costs have escalated in the last couple of years. And I was shocked, Kyle just went and got new estimates a week or 2 ago.
Yes.
And we had to adjust it upwards, unfortunately. We do our best to smooth the plan out, to level out the cash flows. Unfortunately, it's not always possible, and stuff's getting more expensive than it used to be. Be happy to have Kyle answer any questions, or I can address any questions you may have.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a quick question?
Surely.
Thank you, you do a great job. I like DPW, I see the dump, and I know you're limited on your facilities compared to Chatham. I just have a general question. You know, with climate change, we get like 4 or 5 inch rainstorms. That could equivocate to like a 50 or 60 inch snowstorm. Do you have equipment or equipment you can get at to handle that type of snow, you know, potentially that type of heavy snow one of these winters?
We've been through events like you're describing. We had a 3.5-foot snowstorm back in 15 or 05.
That was the worst, 15.
And yes, we have 4 front-end loaders under the DPW. We have 6 or 7 big trucks, 6-wheeler and 10-wheeler trucks. So yes, unfortunately, when you get to those circumstances, it's all front-end loader, very large truck, outer body. Contractors are all scrambling to do the same job. So back in, it was 15 or 05, it took us about a week to dig out and have it back to normal, business as normal. But yes, we do.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, what you have is the full 5-year ask, but added to that are specifics in year 1 where it comes to the total ask of $765,000. You have detail on the specific vehicles that we're looking to acquire.
Something stirred my interest yesterday, some road work being done on Round Cove. And I see the old Ford police cars. What are they called?
Crown Vic.
The Crown Vics are still, I thought we got rid of them.
There is one left for the police department, and they use that just for details,
Did we
when
get,
on patrol.
did we get rid of all the old ambulances that sat back there?
Oh, yeah, we don't have any old ambulances.
You sure?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, just one
We're
other
sure,
question.
sure.
Sorry. Sean had spoken about putting trash compactors in. Would that, if we did speed that up, would that reduce the wear and tear and the replacement cost for vehicles going forward?
Yes. I say that we have one vehicle that handles all our roll-offs that are generated out of the disposal area. And I think that's up for replacement
This year.
So yes, that would reduce the number of trips. Probably for plastic, it would bring it down probably a 3-to-1 basis, cardboard probably a 2-to-1 basis. So you'd be saving some trips.
Just something to consider if we ever have some extra money to move that up. And you may not have to get as much equipment or wear and use it
So
as
you
much.
still need a roll-off truck to deal with it, but there'd be less miles put on it.
Link, let me, the request for 765, 680, 715, et cetera, those are vehicles certainly related to the transfer station. They're dumps, they're big vehicle. I only bring that up because I know that the police. and-
Correct. These are vehicle replacements solely for the Public Works Division.
Is it any type of small vehicles, like cars?
Not in this coming year, but yes, there are some smaller vehicles, couple pickup trucks scattered in there. Anything
Yeah,
else?
and no, just F-150s, probably about the smallest thing.
Okay.
So I have a question. So what we have here in the package is the support for the 765, but no support for the out years. So you did a list of all the out years. It's not just like you took a factor and said inflation is X and we're increasing it by
And
X.
we'll add that to the packet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And this is all the vehicles that are under the DPW jurisdiction of 7 different departments.
So this is mostly just replacement, not necessarily like adding a vehicle
There's
for
no
some
additions,
reason.
ma'am, there's no additions in there whatsoever, simply replacement when things have reached the end of their useful life.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So that's vehicle replacement, we we're concerned about the 765, and we got the definition.
Correct.
You want to do road maintenance?
If I may, with deference to the director. So I wanted to make sure that Sean and Kyle were presented to you folks because they are the experts. I also wanted them to have some face time, because mercifully, we don't ask them to go to town meeting. But I think it's important for us to take a minute to recognize the great work that they do. And then I appreciate the folks from water, wastewater. The director and I are here for the duration. Kyle has an obligation to get back to work, but also to work his regular shift as his union requires, so he'll be done soon. We could yield now for water, wastewater, and come back to roads.
Okay. Fine. Kyle, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Nice meeting you.
Keep them running.
Thank you.
Keep the cost down.
So again, my apologies to the Water Wastewater Commission and the superintendent. I'm going to slide down if that's all right. Do you need the big one? Yeah. Trying to swap. Are you good there?
Can you please all introduce yourselves?
Sure. Thank you. Dan Pelletier, Water Wastewater Superintendent.
Noreen Donahue, Water Wastewater Commissioner.
John Goff, Water Wastewater Commissioner.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I could, the commissioners are here, but this does not constitute a joint meeting. And we have time on your calendar going forward if the two committees want to have a more formal joint meeting.
Let's get through this first. Okay, so we're looking at, what part do you want to go to, Joe? Water department, watershed, or wastewater?
So if I could, my understanding is Dan and the commissioners will be able to speak at length about water, for sure. Wastewater, as it relates to the department and operations. As I've mentioned to the committee prior, CWMP, our Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, is now referred to as the Watershed Management Plan, and that is essentially design and construction. And so the superintendent and I would be speaking directly to that, because the Watershed Management Plan is the responsibility of the Select Board. So I think it's the preference of the superintendent and the commissioners whether they don't want to do water or wastewater first.
Start with water, unless someone has a different.
Let's start with water.
Let's do it.
All right, so just starting at the top, we have a request for 25 for $270,000 for vehicle replacements. That does include the replacement of 3 existing vehicles in our fleet. One being an F-150, or purchasing an F-150 extended cab to replace a 2011 Ford 250, a new F-150 crew cab to replace the 2013 Ford Explorer, and the purchase of a new F-350 extended cab, which would be looking to replace our existing auxiliary vehicle, which is currently an F-150. Reason we're looking to purchase the 350 is because we currently only have one truck for our excavation support truck for all the water main and water service work we do. That truck is outfitted with a compressor and generator to run the various equipment we need. And as that is aging, as it's 2014, it's being out of service more frequently. So we're kind of dead in the water without that truck.
So the difference between last year and this year is about 95,000, and that's the new piece of equipment that you,
Yes.
generally speaking, probably some price adjustments as well, but.
Yeah, what I would also put out there is that we have requested price quotes for these 3 vehicles, but we have not got them back from the vendor yet, so I would say subject to change once we get hard numbers in.
Okay.
Okay, just, we've got more paperwork in front of us. So we're looking at truck 12 replacement, 60 grand. Auxiliary service truck with onboard air and inverter, that's 150. The other one was 60. And vehicle 15, 150 crew cab or expedition for 60.
The 60 seems light based on what I just paid for a Honda CRV, let me just say.
Just for a usage, I mean, there's certainly a difference of what your guys are gonna be driving, either a 150 or an Expedition.
It was
I mean, that doesn't make sense.
the right now, my assistant superintendent, Steve, is in an Explorer that was retired from the police department. At the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioner meeting, last meeting and the meeting before, discussed that, and the decision was to move forward with the 150, seeing as it's a better fit for what he does in the day-to-day.
Okay, so we can get rid of the Expedition. Is he always on the road?
Yeah. Well, daily, yes.
Just a quick question. Are there other departments that are having vehicles that don't do the miles that maybe his department does? Do they get seconds, or is anybody buying new and they're requesting something to replace what was new? Is there any place we can move other vehicles?
I believe we do. I believe the model typically is, and as the superintendent just mentioned, when an SUV comes offline, perhaps from public safety, Kyle goes through it, and the vehicle maintenance department, and then we repurpose it for the regulatory bodies and things of that nature. If you look outside here at Town Hall, you'll see, I believe we just got rid of the last Crown Vic Ford, and they're all SUVs, but they're all hand-me-down SUVs. I think when it comes to public works and public utilities, our model has always been they get the replacement vehicle, they get the new one.
Okay.
Quick question, Dan, I think you've answered this before, but all your vehicles are able to plow as well?
Yes.
And they can not
I would-
just,
I would say with some exceptions, like I have a 150 that's
Right.
not outfit with a plow. The treatment ones wouldn't be outfit with a plow at the 150 level, but all of our 250s and up.
and you can work for the town, not just for the water properties?
Yeah, every fall typically, the DPW puts out a request to water department staff to see how many willing participants and what vehicles we would have available for them and their crew to use.
I'll say.
Okay, so that takes care of the 270. You agree? Agreed?
Yep.
Correct.
Equipment replacements.
So we have in a replacement request for our existing 1998 John Deere backhoe. We are not looking to replace in kind, but instead to purchase a small to mid-size loader as a yard vehicle instead of the backhoe. Quite honest, we don't use the backhoe arm. It would just be purchasing something, you only use 50% of it, meaning to replace with a backhoe.
But you have backhoes for out in this?
We have two excavators.
Okay,
We have a mini and a compact.
Okay.
And the price increase from last year was about 107,000, that's just again,
Yeah, so I got placeholder numbers, or last year's was a placeholder number. I do have firm quotes from the John Deere vendor. The price as quoted is $232,000. What I would say, I put that in, we are anticipating about $16,000 in trade-in for the existing backhoe.
again, it's just cost, everything costs more.
Yeah, and we did do what I would say is a fair amount of research into this loader and size of loader. We, as well as the water commissioners, went on a couple field trips and had a couple demo machines in and feel strongly that this is the appropriate machine.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. But are there any type of vehicle, any type of equipment that you could share with Public Works?
We do share our equipment. We share our excavator, skid steer. We share pretty regularly.
It's on your books?
We each have equipment that we use back and forth.
Okay,
So
Okay.
it's not uncommon for them to borrow something of ours or
okay,
vice versa.
that's sharing is good.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah. Continue, please.
Before we go on from vehicles, I do pay attention to your meetings, and I heard in one of your meetings that you were talking about the need to sort of protect some of the vehicles in a building. Is that still on the I don't see it anywhere in here in the plan, or am I missing it?
Yes, it is in there
Okay,
as
all right,
196.
when we get to
yeah.
it, fine, that's fine, okay.
And you will not miss it going forward, we trust me on that one.
Okay, all right.
It's good there?
Please.
All right, also for FY '25, we have the Pleasant Lake Ave water storage tank recoating, painting. Previously, that was in,
Sorry, in their packet, then the next one they had was the well.
That's okay, it's a biggie, it stands out.
okay, well, we want to do.
Do you want to
No,
go in the order on your plan, or?
Go ahead, just,
All right, well, the tank.
we can figure it out.
That was previously on there for $2 million. I had a full coating evaluation done last year, and an engineer's estimate provided, so we're actually reducing that from $2 million as it was previously to the 1.75. And this is to recoat the Pleasant Lake tank.
Will that all be done in that year?
Yeah.
So it has to be paid in that year?
Yeah, we have to have the full appropriation amount approved prior to signing a contract, so we wouldn't be able to phase it.
Okay.
And just to restate, all of these projects will come out of water enterprise fund, so not out of the tax.
I'm glad you brought that up. That makes my heart flutter. That's nice. Okay. Thank you.
I think it's worth repeating that the number went down
Right, right, yeah.
Right.
on that one. And we
It
thank
It
the
almost
superintendent for his
it almost
efforts.
covers the cost of the vehicle increases.
Right.
There we go. Kind of like how the budget works in my house.
Is that, are we looking at bringing in somebody from out of state like we did with,
Yeah, I'm sure.
okay, nobody around here?
No.
Okay.
There might, there might be since the last time we had someone paint, but usually it's a company out of New York. or
COVID makes a lot
Midwest.
of things happen.
Yeah. So, moving on, new to the plan this year, I have asked for $150,000 for well rehabilitation. This also coincides with the removal of the well rehab and maintenance line item in our operating budget. Reason being is we've had, as you may be aware, a handful of issues with wells over the past several years. We have historically funded that $30,000 to $45,000 annually. This past year, we had a number of well issues expending over $60,000, $65,000, which required us to be robbing money from other projects that we had intended to do to fund that. It's my hope and intent with this article to appropriate a sum of money, being $150,000, to be carried forward on a year-to-year basis. So if we don't have any well issues this year, we didn't raise rates in our operating budget to fund the $60,000 line item.
So when you talk about a carryover, you're talking about carryover of the net balance,
Yes,
unused balance.
correct. So,
And you can do that within your fund?
with a
That's okay
special
to do?
appropriation for a capital article, we were able to carry that balance
Okay.
forward.
But that won't pop back up on our schedule unless it goes below 150?
Unless we
or-
exhaust it. I
Okay.
mean, up and until, I would say, once we get down to 40 or 50,000 would be when I would look to put it and reintroduce it to the capital plan.
How often do you think you have to do this kind of well rehabilitation? Like,
We do it almost, something comes up every year. It's just how much is going to come up this year. For example, last year we had 3 wells go down. When we were repairing one of them, they do a camera inspection and discovered that the well screen separated from the casing. That was a $30,000 change order that we had no way of knowing until you dropped the camera down the
right,
well.
right. Got it.
And- And if I could add, it's more method than anything else. The way we have it now, we're raising 50,000 every year for the purpose, so that means that we're increasing your water rates by that amount. But yet that year, we might not, that particular year, we might not need it, or we might only need a small portion. So then at the end of the year, it goes back to our retained earnings and makes us wealthier. But we've raised your, rates for no good. So by doing it this way, the money will be there, whatever we raise of your rates, at least it's not just going into our, bank account, so to speak, so.
Maureen, I'd like to make, the anticipation is lowering the rates, but you speak about raising the rates. So I want to make sure the audience understands. You do both,
Absolutely.
raise and lower. And,
And this is a way to lower them.
okay, thank you. Just want to make that clear.
And
Yes,
Chairman, I have a question, kind of unrelated to this, but are there any places in the town that have issues with the drinking water at this point in terms of rust or undrinkable or moderately undrinkable water?
I would argue absolutely not.
No.
No, we meet and exceed all of the drinking water standards. I would say when if there are instances or situations that arise that may result in dirty water, if someone hits a hydrant, we have to operate gate valves, it reverses flow in the distribution system. It can create those situations, but on a normal day-to-day, we have excellent water quality.
So if somebody said to me that they have a drinking water issue, a great amount of rust in the water and all of that, and it's in the, sort of not in their home, but is in the area, is that?
So sometimes that can happen, all right, well, so what we typically do when we get concerns or complaints of that nature, if it's someone's specific house, oftentimes we go out and we collect a water sample and have it run at the Barnstable County lab to demonstrate, an independent. If there's a situation where there's locally disturbed water, we see it oftentimes in the fall when irrigation systems are being blown out. If people don't have the right backflow preventer, it can introduce air into the water system, which can stir things up and result. And in those instances, we've sent out crews to try and flush and bring clean water into that area. I know it happened, I think, 2 months ago over by the Pleasant Lake tank. We had an area that we were getting calls for dirty water. There's no apparent obvious reason for it, but we found where it was clean and try to get that flushed out.
And no issue of intrusion in terms of the wells themselves, the main wells of the town? Is that?
Yeah, so with respect to a specific contaminant or just with,
Well, I was thinking
Yeah,
salt, basically. The salt is coming closer to the
so we don't have any
fresh water.
sodium or salt problems at this point. One of the items that we would fund with this $150,000 is well cleaning and redevelopment. That's a smaller dollar item, well rehab, usually between $16,000 and $25,000, where they'll actually clean and surge the well. But for naturally present iron and manganese, those wells all go through the green sand filter plants, and that's removed before it gets into the distribution system.
Mr. Chairman, I would want to add, based on the question, that the superintendent and the commissioners and full commission would be well within their rights to tell you that the town has award-winning water year in and year out, and I know that's a point of pride for the superintendent and his team, and it should be a point of pride for the commissioners in the town. And it's a great line of question, but how many years?
8 in a row.
I lost track. They make us take a year off every now and then.
To give the award to someone
the
else.
other
It's
people.
for that reason that I was so surprised when somebody we weren't talking purposefully on my position on this board or anything, but more just generally about their drinking water, and it seems so kind of out of place.
Right, well, I will say this, I live in the area where they're doing the work in Headwaters on the Azalea Bridge, and whether or not that has, caused some trouble up there, we're not sure where it is. But at any rate, some neighbors came to me and did, naturally you see a big construction project and you think this. So every one of them, what I was so pleased with was whether they came to me first or not, when they went to the department, they all had different situations, and every one of them was thrilled with the service they got. So that's what I was happier about than anything.
This was down at the kind of end of Brooks Road area, that part of the town, West Howard, South,
Right.
Howardsport, sort of.
I would encourage them to contact the department because they really will look into it.
Okay, thank you. What else do we have?
That's it for 25.
Well, one thing for 25, $10 million came off.
Oh,
That's
came
not
off,
a
yes.
small thing. So can you just explain
Yes, so
Why
the-
we don't need to upgrade our distribution system?
well, we do. However, that 10 million was originally earmarked with the hope of being able to get infrastructure bill money.
Right?
The monies from the infrastructure bill are all prioritized towards PFAS mitigation and replacing lead service lines, which gratefully we do not have a problem with either of them. So having no eligible project to submit for, we were going to remove that from
So we remove the project, but the work has to get done somewhere, right?
that. So if we went back 2 years ago, we also had a $300,000 design article. The intent was to identify an eligible project that we had that met the infrastructure bill conditions because they were offering significant principal forgiveness. I would say that was a best case hope because we can't sustain, in my opinion, a $10 million water main project right now on top of the 15 million, for Route 28 that was approved last year. So the original intent of the 10 million was that it would have been offset by grant or infrastructure bill money, but where that's not apparent that we'll be able to get any of that for traditional water main work.
Right, but my point is, we're kicking something down the road, this work.
It wasn't a specific project that it was identified for. So I had 3 projects.
You're just trying to take advantage of the funding.
I was trying to get something in the queue so that we could get some federal money.
So
I think,
will we?
if I may,
Yeah,
go back
help
to
me.
the commentary in years past, the superintendent was looking for shovel-ready projects to make sure if we were eligible, we were one of the first in line. So we were pursuing funding to then do a project that we want to do.
So now, upgrading the system will happen as it needs to happen? And so it'll be more, maybe next year we'll see some project, or the year after we'll see some project based on need.
Yes, and one of the other projects in the list, the pipe discontinuity upgrade, is a good example of one of those projects.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And
Can
that
I
just
add?
rolls off the 10.
And I'll just add that this year in particular, we had to take a really hard look at the project list. And by the way, before I say that, the group of projects that we didn't make on the water side, that 10 million was seeking, but we did make it on the wastewater side, so,
Right, right.
there is some good. But at any rate, back to really looking over the list, we generate these from our own funds, so, we don't go to tax borrowers. And we had the complications of this past year, it rained so much that we didn't pump and sell a great deal of water. And the year before, we asked everybody to stop outdoor watering on August 1st. So again, we've had 2 low revenue years in a row. And we project so conservatively that even with those 2 factors, we're still okay. But, it certainly hurt any pad or anything, not that we have a giant pad, but a small buffer. Those 2 years in a row, back to back, certainly hurt that. So the elimination of this was, had to be looked at in the whole pattern of
Maureen,
what we're able to fund.
what's your number in retained earnings?
In retained earnings, what is it, 278 now?
Well, for water last year, it was certified at 2.199, and that was
Okay.
before the 670
Oh, and
or
water.
475 came
Sorry,
out
wastewater.
to fund last year's articles.
Okay,
Moving on.
Yep.
yeah,
Next big one for 27 and a change to the plan is new well construction, water treatment plant upgrades. If you've been following along the last couple of years, we've been doing our new source exploration in North Harwich, and this is the culmination of those past several years of work.
okay. Next?
we have 196 Chatham Road improvements, which is seeking to put a space building to house equipment and vehicles over at 196 Chatham Road.
This
That's
is the
where it is.
one.
Okay.
Yes. Well, we touched on discontinuity briefly. Did you want to go back to that?
No, we're good.
1.5, okay. Although hearing Link and Sean talk about their building, I will admit that the 1.5 probably needs some refinement, but
That's
to
the
get it going.
garage that's attached to his building?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm only kidding. This one-
good with that.
Yeah, we're good with it.
So
As long as
wastewater,
it's in the out years, we're fine. Let's, I'm really concerned about
Theoretically.
25.
so wastewater department for 25, I have a request for collection system improvements. We can name it. I'm open to naming suggestions and recommendations, but
So,
this,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to explain that this is a new section, and what you will see over the years under wastewater department, before it used to include new construction, maintenance, and everything else, but this is now specific for capital expenses only to the parts of town that are connected, just so you're aware. It's not,
So this is sort of the new, we
This
need
is
to
the
take
real-
care of what we just built.
yeah,
yes.
this
Okay.
is the real wastewater
Yep,
department.
got it.
So I have asked for $75,000 for FY '25. So this is for collection, what I'm putting under the blanket of collection system improvements. So we've had instances, and I will expect that we will continue to have instances with our brand-new wastewater collection system that things need to be addressed, and I would argue immediately in the interest of public health. We had one instance where one of the level transducers malfunctioned that tells the pumps when to turn on, and the backup that was installed as part of the Phase 2 construction also didn't work. So now I have a $20,000 liability, which is installing a backup float control panel at all 4 of our pump stations that I don't have funding for. Now, that's one example. I expect we're going to discover more things like this. And we've taken those instances and included the revisions in our new Phase 3 pump stations, but we still need to address the 4 that we had in Phase 2.
These funds come out of,
These would be sewer retained earnings.
So is
And/or-
water retained earn, or is there a distinction between water and wastewater retained earnings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I believe last year was certified over 200,000. I don't know where we're at presently. If it isn't contained within the sewer retained earnings, it would be by way of the transfer from the general fund to support the wastewater operation.
what's the revenue on that side? Sewers.
Sewer rates.
Oh, 15,000?
Yeah, but the
Oh.
whole town is not sewered, so
Right, yeah.
what
I
are
would-
your,
I
what do you
mean,
got coming in?
15 to 30,000 a year,
Right.
not, you know, really next to nothing at this point. We have about 200, it's growing every quarter because we have more people coming online, but.
If I may, that-
So how do you pay the
That also
negative?
gets to the operation budget transfers that we do every year, meaning before we had any ratepayers, the operating budget was sending money to wastewater, correct?
Yeah.
So now we have some ratepayers, so it reduces, but we're still doing the operating to wastewater.
So it's
so-
still a subsidiary? or
Absolutely,
Subsidized?
without question.
Okay, I just wanted,
And for Phase 2, most of those people, other than my street, need to hook up by the end of the year, isn't that right?
Mailings were sent out in 3 separate mailings, I think
Okay.
February, March of '22, June, and December. So, but
Getting there.
yes, we have about 50%, like I said. There's also ongoing discussions amongst the Board of Health and Water Wastewater Commission and Select Board with respect to extending the order to connect timeframe, but that's above my pay grade.
okay.
He said that.
Moving out to 26 for the wastewater department, the water department was gracious enough to transfer over the Ford Ranger that we have for the assistant wastewater superintendent position, which I'm anxiously awaiting coming on board. And that is a retired vehicle that's really since been retired twice. So this would be looking to purchase a new vehicle for the Assistant Wastewater Superintendent in FY '26.
65,000 still looks light to me for that.
Don't disagree, waiting on the
Yeah,
quotes.
fingers crossed.
Okay.
And we have requested.
When is he gonna be on?
price.
When do you see him coming on?
Within the fiscal year, within this fiscal year.
July, through July?
Fiscal year '24, so before June. And fingers very much crossed very soon.
So are we done with wastewater?
I'm good.
Okay, can I ask questions about WMP?
So, yes, however, I think this would conclude the discussion with the commissioners. They're,
Now we leave.
they don't have to leave, but this is, as I've said before, the town has been working on comprehensive wastewater management planning. We were under efforts going back to calendar year '21, I think you may recall that of all, October 18th, 2021 special town meeting to revise and update. Since then, we know that DEP has changed the regulations, and really what they've done is they've created a new standard for watershed management. That's why the regulations that we all were focusing on, and when I say we all were, that was any community that had either waterfront or our water bodies, and we now know that that is particular to Cape Cod. So as the superintendent and I work with GHD Engineering, Dan and I are actively engaged in the Phase 3 construction. We can certainly update you on that, but the relevant point under watershed management now is we had a Phase 4, $2.5 million, and that would have been the opening stages, if you will, that's how we start, on design ahead of construction. Phase 4 for the town of Harwich is wholly and completely dependent upon treatment. And so our neighbors, so this would not include Chatham, because we're well underway with our intermunicipal agreement and treatment of flow to them. It would be any other neighbors without getting into specifics, because they first need to focus on themselves. So given that we are now looking at watershed management, we are looking at Phase 4, and Phase 4 is dependent upon treatment, I removed it from the plan. Dan and I talk regularly with GHD, and rather than throw it out to the next year or so, I intend to keep this on the plan as zeros as we as a community talk about next steps for watershed management. So whenever Phase 4 is, it's going to be tied inextricably to treatment. And we do not have a solution on that yet, because it's not where we were progressing under previous plans.
So before we could even do the design of Phase 4, pick what is going to be Phase
Correct.
4, we might have some expenses related to treatment.
Correct.
And that could take years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Again, there may be what seems to be a, quote, obvious solution. And I would just suggest at this time, again, every Cape Cod community, with probably the exception of Chatham, is reacting and responding to the watershed management plant regulation requirements. Therefore, every one of these Cape Cod towns is looking at the very same thing. So we, Harwich, are ready, willing, and able to continue conversations with any potential partners. We're also internally ready, willing, and able to have the difficult conversations of if the town needs to have its own treatment plant.
I've got a question, and it doesn't have to do with that. You made a comment about you're getting a new assistant, whatever is,
Assistant wastewater superintendent.
okay, and he reports to you
Yeah.
because you are the
Water wastewater superintendent?
water and wastewater, okay. Will those two departments share assets in terms of vehicles, in terms of equipment? I don't know, I mean, do you have to build up, from a human resource standpoint, wastewater department?
Yeah, so I think that's part of a much bigger discussion, but what I would put out there right now is I This assistant wastewater position will be the first and only full-time dedicated Town of Harwich wastewater employee. Beyond that, we have contract operations through our agreement with Chatham, with Weston and Sampson that handles the day-to-day pump station inspections and routine things like that. At some point, it may be more financially appropriate for us to not do that through a subcontracted service, but instead build a wastewater department for the town of Harwich. But right now, our contract operations expenses are only about $120,000 a year. And to staff a wastewater department, we would be looking at multiple bodies, multiple vehicles, and would eclipse that subcontracted costs pretty quickly. So I think, if I'm understanding your question correctly, it would make sense, but I don't think we're anywhere near that.
Yeah, my only question was, I see you bringing one person in to do something and giving him a vehicle, and all I read is, you're gonna give him a truck. Fine. Do we need other trucks, other equipment for other employees? And if you're saying we subcontract that stuff out, then the question is, you don't need them. Currently,
Correct,
current.
correct.
All these, the inspections on this stuff, are they done internally? In other words, if somebody has work done at the house or something like that, do we send our employees to go out and check?
It's Weston and Sampson goes out to does the, like for a sewer service inspection.
Whatever.
That's really the only work that we would be involved in.
Okay, the only reason why I say it is, it's obvious that there's gonna be a lot of work to be done in town. And it's obvious that we don't have the manpower, nor perhaps we don't want the manpower, to inspect or deal with issues that come out on issues that perhaps our employees are not schooled in. And you say that we have Weston or whatever their name is.
Yeah.
I only bring that up firsthand is I had work done on my house, not in your department, but a third-party company that does inspections came to my house and didn't identify himself, herself. Got a little confusing, wanted to take pictures, and I said no, because I don't know where these photos are going, and asking me questions about the work that has been done. And she didn't prove to me that she was sufficiently educated to take the information down, and I told her no. And I had to come back to town hall and identify the issue, and we worked through it. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if, I hope it doesn't happen to anybody else, but I mean, it's to a point where we're gonna have so much work done, and we have a lot of senior citizens that would do the work if they could do it themselves, and having somebody say or question the work that has been done, and questioning it, and having the right identification, and to prove that, yes, they're the ones that I should supply information
So
to.
as we work through Phase 3, which is the roughly $50 million construction project that Dan and I are actively working on with GHD, where we hope to have a construction contract completed by June 30th, 2024. Ahead of that, we would be doing informational sessions and information on impacted streets and all of that. So if anybody is getting contacted by any unidentified parties regarding sewer or wastewater type things, their best bet is to always defer and reach out to the superintendent first, and then certainly if we can figure out, are they currently under Phase 2, or are they going to be in Phase 3, or perhaps it's an overeager engineering department that just wants to get somebody's money. But as we progress towards the next major construction project, the town will be reaching out to all impacted residents and communities.
I appreciate
We're going to have a discussion later this month through the zoning board on variance related to Phase 3 pump stations. So there are a number of residents that are getting abutters notices that'll be aware of that.
Okay.
But if anyone's getting any outreach from anybody who does not adequately identify themselves, they should assume it is not the town. The town goes to extraordinary lengths to identify ourselves as municipal employees from the town of Harwich.
I appreciate that. It's the question of if there's a third party that comes to do the inspection or to do follow-up. A non-employee, I'm concerned about.
So, I think the short answer to your question is yes, it is a non-town employee, it is a
Right.
Weston and Sampson employee. They are called by the sewer installer, not, so it's not them showing up randomly, but there's a whole, it's all in our permitting system, there's a whole checklist that they have to go down, verify, put a digital
All I'm
level on
saying
the
is that
pipe.
our viewers and the citizens of our town should know what the protocol is and what the process is, because it's all new to them, just like it's new to us. Okay?
Sure.
I'm just throwing that out.
Point well taken.
And don't show up at my door. You can send Noreen, but that's okay.
You're absolved.
I'll come and take the pictures of your sewer service.
Have your drone above my house.
I'll bring Mark,
Noreen and I go back to the FinCom many, many years ago.
long ago.
But I thank you for your time, and thanks for coming to visit, and good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, or are we good?
I'm good with, I just have one question to Joe before we finish up, that's all.
Okay, but we can let
Yeah,
the
you
group
guys
go.
go.
Thank you.
You especially out of here.
Do we have Link next, or what's?
Yeah, so next would be roads maintenance, and the superintendent's gonna take a momentary rest in the audience before he comes back up. So next on your agenda would be the roads maintenance plan, back onto the public works, but did you have a question on watershed or anything?
No, let's get it at the end of the meeting.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I believe the last item on your agenda today would be the discussion of our roads maintenance program. And we have an exceptional highway manager
Yes.
in Chris Nickerson. Chris is going to be retiring soon, so we thank him for his efforts. However, the road maintenance plan is something that our Director of Public Works has worked on directly for many, many years.
That'd be
And so
correct.
that's why Link and I are here to speak. I will tell you that there's a slight modification in the discussion, however. As we're about to get into road maintenance, it is going to be the standard plan that you may be familiar with and you can see in the applications. However, we are also going to be tying that conversation to other projects related to roads such as drainage. Drainage certainly for Phase 3 construction project, but other drainage projects that may be out there that you might hear from neighbors or constituents. So next up, road maintenance.
Can I have a pack here of requests from Link, and it's not road maintenance, and it's not vehicle replacements. It's stuff like, and this, DPW facilities, building improvements, town hall. Is this the stuff, Albro House?
Yeah, that's what
That was the-
Sean Libby went through earlier, so.
Okay, so this is facilities. I'm
Right,
just,
there are three essential packets. One is facilities,
right,
one is vehicles, and
Okay.
now the third is road.
I don't want it. Okay,
And the cover page of that is,
I got it,
okay?
the bottom.
Yeah, I got it. I just got it.
A lot of paper.
Yeah, the paper never ends. As we have tried to coordinate our road maintenance plan with the sewer project and Mr. Pelletier, and we did so in Phase 2 to the best of our ability, and the whole thought process is the sewer projects will be resurfacing those roads in their entirety. We don't want to resurface over old antiquated drainage that we might have to go and dig up after the fact. There's a mixture of drainage out there on all these roads. Some would be old block basins that are inevitably going to fail. There could be new ones that we've put in there on one-offs, like you have a drainage issue in front of your house, and we go and address that. We've approached this, I asked Mr. Nickerson, our road manager, you may have that, that's the list of all the roads in Phase 3, and that's
Town-owned.
that's town-owned, yes, thank you. Town-owned public roads that we plan to try to install drainage in coordination with the sewer project. We have backed off our typical road maintenance, and I'd say Mr. Nickerson's done a great job through the years, and I'm very proud of the conditions of our roads overall. We felt we had been in such a good position that we essentially backed off paving activities, still do normal maintenance activities like line striping, crack sealing, and miscellaneous drainage that the administrator was talking about. We still do those activities, but we've focused the vast majority of the funds, and we typically have been the recipients of about $1.4 million a year. Half of that in state funds called Chapter 90, and half of that subsidized through the town. And we felt like we could take a hiatus on the typical resurfacing of roads and concentrate on drainage. This is roughly a $5 million issue over the next 3 years. We've been doing our best to coordinate all of these activities. We still have to spend some of that road money on miscellaneous drainage locations, like you have a puddle in front of your house, Rich, we'd go out there and, if Mr. Nickerson agreed that it's a problem that should be solved, we put it on a list, and we do those lists about once a year. Still do the line painting, crack sealing, and some miscellaneous patching here and there. But the vast majority of the funds are gonna go in the ground in coordination with sewer.
So I'm a little bit confused, Joe, on the main schedule, the big schedule. I don't see these numbers. Am I missing something?
So if you look under Public Works, so 1, 2, 3, 4 up from the bottom, you see road maintenance / improvements, 1.5, 1.75, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was looking at last year's. Got it. Sorry.
Yes.
She's
I
buying
love those
lunch.
questions, I can answer those.
She's buying lunch. Don't worry.
There's just a lot of paper.
So you're addressing drainage issues after his work?
Well,
Current drainage issues,
in,
ad hoc.
right,
I call you, there's a puddle in front of my house. Fix it, please. Okay.
that's still maintaining,
Okay, so that's current.
yes.
You're anticipating that when he starts doing his work, there's going to be some drainage issues or plain old road work.
The
We're not
road
going to
work.
do it twice.
Right, that is exact, there's economies of scale in coordinating these activities. You certainly don't want to pave a road once the sewer's done.
Right.
And have to go dig it back up after the
Correct.
fact.
What do you anticipate the time lag? He finishes on Friday, when do your guys show up?
We've been meeting with GHD and discussing that as soon as last week. We had meetings in coordination of these activities. What we feel is the best approach is to have the sewer go in, put the road in binder, and then go in, do the drainage, and allow a 6-month settlement period between when the binder goes down and your top coat goes on.
Who does the first work? GD, whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're responsible. Okay, and then you're the finisher.
So, well, it's not finished because they would still, his contractor still owes the town a top course.
Okay,
So we're gonna go in, once it's in binder, and put in the drainage.
those are levels of paving. So-
Yes, you usually get 2 levels of pavement, usually 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches
Okay.
piece.
And if that 6-month time period goes over the winter, it's okay with the binder down?
Yeah, yeah. Most people.
For the audience, if there's an issue of cooling or whatever, and you haven't started fixing, still under you, who do they go to?
Either, well,
If it's in the construction area, it's gonna be on the responsibility of the contractor. They're gonna have to put in, the catch basin, silt socks,
Yeah.
and all that. So there's.
And the little curb work or whatever it
Yeah.
takes to keep the water that way. Okay, I'm just trying to think of the negatives and, where you have done. Now I know why the roads are in the condition they are, but we have quote-unquote patchwork being done to satisfy drainage issues. Corner of Round Cove and 139, it's always been a huge issue there, and that's all been taken care of by your department.
I have good people I've surrounded myself with.
I'm glad I visited.
Excellent answer.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
The numbers have gotten bigger. Quite frankly, a month ago, Dan and I dropped our mouths when we saw how large these numbers were. We were thinking that they were the drainage numbers.
What percentage of the streets in Harwich are owned by the residents and you don't take care of?
We have strike that, we have 142 miles of public roads, about 60-plus of privates. We have 482 public roads, and last time I looked, about 365 privates.
How do you address the privates?
For sewer
That's
construction?
that's an excellent.
Well, the question is, if they're digging up a private, that I've got an issue, I gotta connect, but I'm on a private road, but I still gotta get connected,
Yeah.
and the sewer's gonna run through, but it's not a public street, and go ahead, I'm sorry.
We are intending to repave the private roads that we disturb as part of the project as well.
Does
but-
he have to come in and you do the finish work? It's not an issue
Finish
that,
work.
you go in and do the storage, and you get your contractor to do whatever he has to do, the
Yeah.
letters, GHD or whatever. They have to do the layering of the
Yeah.
road. Who finishes that road?
Us contractor again. The sewer contractor is going to finish.
And if it was a town road, who finishes that road?
Same.
See,
Then where do you come in?
we're
between.
doing the drainage.
Who
It's in
does
the
the
ground.
drainage on the private road?
That's the private road owners.
Do they know that?
I would,
Probably not.
I only say that because I've seen a private road that's out there, and I see the owners of the house sort of digging holes around a sewage, a drain, and then pouring some type of mix around it. And I'm just saying, well, is that okay? I mean, does that meet municipal standards? I don't know.
But some of the newer developments, because I've seen, again, I kind of watch some of the meetings, I'm dangerous.
You need Netflix.
I know, not buying Netflix. But they're required, and they know they're required. That's all part of the planning
So,
process.
correct, there's an element of stormwater management.
Right.
And stormwater management comes through on the planning board decision-making. The town relies upon VHB engineering to analyze their plans and proposals and direct.
Right. It's probably some of the older private roads where people are not aware.
Yeah, but the question still is, if it's a private road, the homeowners are stuck. If they have him I don't mean it derogatory, his department,
Right.
his department coming in, or his companies coming in to do the work, and if it's not acceptable, who do they
Well,
go back to?
if the developer still has the legal responsibility, because then sometimes they haven't handed
The
it over to
developer's gone.
No, sometimes they haven't handed it over to the homeowners association.
They are the homeowners association a lot of times.
Right.
But the question is, you go back to the homeowners association, and if it happens to be the developer builder, he's gonna raise his hand and says, we're not finished yet, okay? And my question is, if I was a homeowner in one of those developments, and the town tells me, you need a sewer, and it's not done properly, I can't go back to the developer and the of the homeowners association.
No,
I gotta go back to one of these guys.
so The general contractor working on the sewer project is responsible for repaving the private roads, same as public roads.
Okay,
If they do a poor job executing on that paving,
correct.
the town has to accept the work, which would be part of myself, DPW, GHD as engineer overseeing the project would
Right.
say, this is unacceptable, you have to redo this, before we take ownership and pay them for the work. So if you on a private road have an issue with the way it was left by the sewer contractor, you would come to me, who would then work with the
Yeah,
engineer.
that's, I'm looking at liability.
Yeah.
Okay, and where does somebody say, you know, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa?
One consideration that I had tossed around with Link, and I think it's something we should still intend on doing, is some sort of an evaluation of the existing conditions of the private road drainage system, so people could not come back after and say, oh, this worked perfect before and now it doesn't,
Correct.
when
Why, that would never happen.
never. So,
And I hate to see Link get involved, was that 124? The sewage up above, north of Route 6, where with drainage issues and the paving. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I do, I've tried to forget about that
Is that
particular
124?
project. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that, you weren't here at that time.
Correct. I know wherever you speak.
It was a nightmare, and it rested on his shoulders. And it's where homeowners got involved. And he had a whole head of hair before this thing started. It was,
3 inches tall, too.
I thank
It
you.
wasn't as white.
Are we
that's
good?
for sure.
Amen to that.
Yes,
I
sir.
had a question.
Surely. Your street's not on there.
What are the columns referred to here? What is
The number of,
eight
these
hour
are the,
details?
these are the roads
Right.
that are incorporated into Phase 2, public roads.
That I understand.
That are in Phase 2.
Number
The
systems.
number of systems that was counted, the number of police
Drainage
details,
What does that mean, though? What number of systems?
number of individual systems. So all of our drainage that we install are individual site-specific systems. So they're not connected. A lot of communities, particularly off Cape, connect all their drainage systems via pipes.
Okay.
We don't do that because we have good percolation here.
Okay.
There's no necessity to do that. The next is the amount of police details needed.
But all of these operate the same way, they all just drain
Yes, sir.
into the.
More or less, we're talking 1,000-gallon yes, 1,000-gallon solid catch basins with sumps in them and sucks into 1,000-gallon leach basins. A lot of times, if you have, I don't think we have any high water out in this area. If you have a high water table somewhere, we have other tools in the toolbox, such as galleys that are 3 feet deep rather than 6 feet deep. So
So
there's,
in essence, there are 44 separate draining systems on Orleans Road, at least the section of
Yep.
Orleans Road that we're talking about here. Is this the whole road, or,
it's just a portion that's being sewered.
okay. And 8-hour details are
Police details.
police details. And is there any way to accommodate some sort of a limit on that, or?
A limit on what?
Well, on the cost and the amount of details that are needed. Seems-
If we're working in the road, we're required to have police details. We can't put contractors or town staff without a police. Some side roads, we've discussed some neighborhood roads of possibly asking for flagmen in lieu of police details.
Yeah.
But it's not.
There's a standard practice that's required here in terms of the number of people, or how long they have to be
Yes,
there,
this-
or how
thi-
often they're shifted, or whatever.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
also relative to the appropriate collective bargaining agreement.
I've got one question for you, because I've been approached already. Pleasant Bay Road is on the agenda,
Yes, portions of.
portions of. Will traffic run around with the work? The issue is that to divert traffic on Round Cove it only fits literally 2 cars anyway. What's going to happen with people walking, kids playing? Has it been chosen already to be the alternate alternative? Okay, there's some issues of homeowners that the street isn't wide enough that if you add 2 trucks, it won't go.
I've also been approached.
Have you?
On that very specific
Okay,
subject,
then we're
yes.
probably talking about the same homeowner on Round Cove.
Yeah,
Okay, I just,
and,
because I never made it to the post office because of that. They
Yeah.
closed, trying to explain. I'm sure they're addressing the issue.
a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, the detour and routes are somewhat defined by the police department.
And that's what I understood also. And I just open that up to you because I'm sure they're going to be, when you look at a main thoroughfare like Pleasant Bay, if you want to get to Chatham, you want to get to Orleans, you want to get any place.
So one of the things that will resume when construction resumes is, you may remember at select board meetings, I would do updates right after Pledge of Allegiance and before public comment, where we would be giving advance notice to neighborhoods and areas where construction is coming to them and road changes and all of that. So we'll continue doing that and continuing putting information out weeks in advance whenever possible.
So as somebody who's been through that construction on Continental, it can be inconvenient, but the contractors were really good with working with us, and they would let us know the night before that you might, if you want to get out, you need to park your car over here, which was good that the police were there, you know, because you'd have a line of cars who, you know, there were times where you couldn't access your house.
And-
But they would, you know, if you needed an emergency vehicle down there, they would figure out how to get it down there. It wasn't, it's inconvenient, but it isn't forever. It's quick,
This
they're
is-
as quick as they can be.
This is a little bit different because you're talking about a main thoroughfare being put to an alternative road that wasn't built to be a main thoroughfare.
So,
But if I may, I think the point being made is where we would start. That standard of care, that level of care that everyone came to expect in Phase 2 contracts, plural, we would be looking to replicate in Phase 3. And make sure that public safety through police and fire, construction representatives are in constant communication with the town so that the town can be in constant communication with those affected neighbors.
He and I have been I can't explain it any better. We both were put in the same situation, trying to provide an answer.
Sure, I would say.
Simple.
Sure. Administration's not aware of that individual yet, or those comments. My point still stands. As the town is about to embark on a multi-year, $50+ million construction project, we will make sure that communication is of paramount importance and procedure.
I'm just very happy that that individual resident followed my instructions by contacting a gentleman named Mr. Pelletier, who probably will have an answer for them. So,
and I think the answer I provided, because I think the big issue is coming off of 137 up Pleasant Bay, which would be where you'd be detouring.
yeah,
We're only going a few houses past Elm and Chestnut there, so if anything, it would only be for a very
I don't
short-
go that way, but I have to listen to the, you know, it's because I'm involved with the town. Thank you, gentlemen.
Keep talking to you two.
Not me, I'm not excused yet.
No, I think
Hey,
I'm not
Lincoln,
excused yet.
At some point, can we talk about drainage on Continental?
On Continental? Oh, God.
We got some ponding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to give me a call next week.
He's there all the time.
Thank you.
Be good.
Not a chance.
Okay. So we have, the last thing to discuss is what our calendar looks like for the coming weeks.
So I will tell you that for Thursday, November 9th, we would or you should expect representatives from fire and police going over their applications. I will also alert you that if you look at the middle of the plan, Harwich Elementary School, so as you all know, that with the changes in the Monomoy Regional School District Agreement, Harwich and Chatham are solely responsible for each of their elementary schools and the capital needs therein. There will be changes to that plan. There is an application in for fiscal year '25. So Dr. Scott Carpenter and Business Manager Michael McMillan are scheduled to come before you folks next week to cover that as well. So you'll have public safety, and you will have public education. And then if I look at it, what remains is Channel 8, AKA the Harwich Channel, Golf, Harbor Master, IT. So I can either incorporate elements of that next week, or we could look at the rest of those groups coming before you on November 17th.
Which three, which, do you had golf?
So next week, police, fire, education, so then left over would be the Harwich Channel, golf, Harbor Master, information technology.
Okay.
I don't know about quorum issues, Mr. Chairman, but I'm not available on the 9th, so
Okay. That is an issue.
warm bodies, table.
I think we'll have the other two back, or at least one, but thanks for keeping it. Why don't we do this? Can we start, I don't know what your calendar is, an hour earlier?
Sure.
You guys have a problem with that next week?
On the
Start at-
9th?
Yeah, start at 9?
That's fine by me.
I can tell you that the schools will probably, they were aware of a 10 o'clock start, and they were probably going to be later than 10, but we can
Put it
certainly
towards
start with
the
public
middle of
safety.
Yeah, let's get
Sure.
like the Harbor Master and Infotech. I don't care what the, you know the batting order, but I'm saying we could get it all done by next week, so that the following week that
Sure.
we can do our voting and our comments.
Should we let Dan and Ann know ahead of time that it's going to be an hour earlier, just so?
Sure, absolutely. But I think what you're saying is the remaining presenters will all be next week.
I don't want to say squeeze, that by giving an extra hour.
Correct.
We just have to be, the guys you brought in today are heavy duties.
Correct. That's why
Okay.
they were brought in first.
Okay,
Yep.
heavy duties, a lot of information, and we should, we gave them the time. We went 2 hours plus. I would think if we add an hour and we add, police, fire, and education, and then we do Channel 18, golf, harbor, infotech, we should be fine. And then the following, was it 17th?
Correct.
The 17th is really an administrative meeting, where we go over each one, ask, review what the funding was, and work with Joe to understand where it's coming from, or what his idea. And in between, if you can,
Do we want to talk about where we want to go first?
It could be the 17th, because I don't see that meeting, we could,
If I may, if you can accomplish all of that, and I think you could
by next week.
on the 9th,
Right.
I would agree and recommend that a large portion of your discussion on November 17th should be site visits, followed by a meeting for deliberation and discussion.
Yeah.
And given that some folks can't make it on the 9th, if everybody is generally available on the 17th, you could have the greatest impact.
Maybe we could start that one at 9 as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I just think picking up the extra hour just,
I think that can make great headway, absolutely.
And do we have a preference for where we want to go first?
no. I don't want to say that. I think we need to ask when everybody's here, okay? I think you have some of those. The real question is, we could do it two ways. A lot of us have SUVs, or some of us have SUVs. We could take our own vehicles, or we could take the bus, and it's sort of uniform, and we all go to one place.
I would insist for liability purposes and all of that, your special employees acting on behalf of the town, meet here prior to 9 a.m., I will have the van ready, warmed, and will be your very capable driver, tour guide, host.
You?
Yes?
And we'll decide next week where we go.
Yeah, and since he's driving and he knows where he's going,
Well, I mean, which,
I think we should start at the transfer station.
yes, please.
Yes.
yeah, and then I want to say, he'd like to see the roof at the middle school.
I mean, I just feel terribly uninformed, you know?
Join the crew. No, I understand, but we're going to satisfy your request to make sure we get it. And if you have anything, Mark, let her know. We'll continue on. We got to compress what we're doing and without compressing the presentations. So if we add an hour for our own time, an hour would, doing, for instance, golf, Harbor Master, and Channel 8, and Infotech, I don't see an hour of them. You guys agree? Okay. So we're good? Will you,
I'll just talk to you after.
will you, can you just put something out that, on the, just who's going to be there, what is next week?
Absolutely.
And that it's from the 9th and the 17th are both 3 hours.
Yep.
And basically, it would be maybe an hour and a half of site visits.
On the 17th?
Yeah,
Sure.
or an hour. I want to have that meeting.
Sure.
Have the ability to look at, no matter how many we got, the requests, and just say, that's it, if there are any questions and so forth. So that we satisfy, the December presentation kind of thing.
Sure.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks, Caleb.